Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Love you.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Love you too. Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Feliz Dia de Madre.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Mwah, from all of us.
Oh, let me wipe my cheek. My goodness. Mine was here. It's a little wet in there.
We as a family, one of our traditions is often just to sit around the table and chat, and talk, and tell stories, and play games. And I think one of my best memories is so we'll be sitting playing a game, and it's some game that is funny, and we're all laughing, having a great time, and then Mom, for some reason, something happens, and she begins to laugh in such a way that she can't control herself anymore.
She doesn't start laughing. She's spitting and then laughing.
Yeah, I'll
and
demonstrate. It's like this. I totally remember. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and it shows this woman who, on the outside, often she's trying to be serious and take life seriously for what it should be. But deep down inside, there's also this girl who loves to have a good time, loves to have fun, loves family, and loves to laugh.
So what do y'all think about Mom in St. Petersburg? I think that's always a memory.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the game.
I
Oh, my-
remember the first time I beat her, too.
Oh, it'll never happen for me. She always kills me at that game.
But now I can't even beat her cheating. I cheat all the time and I still can't beat her.
You are a cheater.
I am a cheater.
And the
I
other thing
am.
she's good
I
at
don't
is
care.
ping pong. You guys ever played her in ping pong?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
to have that in our garage. Yeah. I thought
Well, I
it was hilarious.
challenge Mom. We have one in our basement, a ping pong table. Bring it on, Mom. Even though she never claimed to be awesome at sports, she was always willing to try. And she always got out there with us. I remember volleyball in particular, her rolling a lot on the floor. And anytime the ball came, her shooting up on the floor and rolling somehow. And that just always makes me laugh when I think about it, and I picture it a lot, actually. and also I remember playing kickball that one time, and I can't laugh about this anymore because it totally happens to me all the time now that I've had children. But
I'm with you. I will never forget. I will
Yeah.
never forget seeing Mom play kickball.
Yeah.
That image of Mom playing kickball. Oh my God. She's playing
Yeah.
kickball and she knows what to do.
Yeah, but I remember her having a little accident while playing kickball. And again, I can't laugh anymore because I totally get it now. Vengeance has come back and gotten me. But
Ultimate sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Self-shame so that she
seriously, seriously.
Love her
And the
I
sad
have
part-
sacrificed my bladder for my children.
So true. Oh yeah.
Cassandra, I know you remember that little bird, Chip.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember Mom actually had such a love for that bird, and she was cleaning its cage or something and sit on her shoulder. She forgot he was sitting on her shoulder, so she walked outside, and he flew away. Oh, that was so
Never to
funny.
return again.
You know, Mom was a good sport about all those pets we begged her
Yes.
and brought home. She
No
was
kidding.
such a good sport. She
Remember
never
the
wanted
squirrel?
a pet. Never wanted a pet. But
Yep.
she was such a good sport and loved him
Tippy.
anyway. And took care of him. Tippy, the cat, them were cats, a tarantula. I mean, come on.
Had a ferret for like 4 or 5 days. And
I
that was
I
remember
remember
that.
that. It was so stinky. Yeah, it was
I loved
stinky.
that thing. I would make it play Barbies with me. That was so fun.
What I remember is Mom putting diapers on Tiffy.
wait. Hold on. Back up. How did you make a ferret play Barbies with you?
So I
The
had
ferret
a
was
house
a
out of
Barbie.
cardboard.
Come on.
I had a house out of cardboard that I made for my Barbie, and I would make the ferret be like the monster trying to get into the cardboard house. It was awesome. I
Another
loved it.
bunch of cackles like a bunch of old women.
Yeah, Mom was a good sport with all those animals.
Oh,
She
yeah,
was
she
a
was
good
great.
sport. She never wanted any of them, and she
Mm-mm.
still loved them all.
Except the chickens. She wanted the chickens.
Yeah.
That was
That-
her. Oh, the bunnies.
Yeah, what about the
Bunnies.
rabbit?
Oh, we did have bunnies.
Yeah, we had rabbits, chickens, we've had cats, we
had
had
gerbils.
Gerbil.
We had mice.
Birds.
You guys remember the
we
mice?
had mice. Yeah, yeah, birds.
We had mice?
I don't remember the
I
mice,
missed
but I remember
that.
the hamster.
It was in Tacoma, so you were probably too little,
I
Chantel.
was too little.
So we had
Oh,
parrots.
We even had Squirrel. Remember Dusty? How long did he live?
He didn't live long.
Oh,
We
was it
found him,
5
I think,
weeks?
on the... Yeah.
I think he lasted
And a
4
duck.
weeks.
We had a little duck that we found in the...
That's
Yeah,
right.
that
They
one
ended
was
up
my
dying.
fault.
Put in the bathtub.
Yeah, Chantel gave it a bubble.
I tell you though,
Producer
what
of all of
Mom
them.
was smart, because I don't know if you remember the turtle that bit my finger
Turtle,
and wouldn't let
Of
go.
course. I forgot about that.
And
No.
Mom was smart, and so she got out matches.
Oh.
She lit a match, and she put it right under the turtle's head.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
And then the turtle
Great.
let go of my finger.
Wow.
Wow.
So she
Yeah,
was
it's
very
a
in tune
spiritual
with those
giant.
little instincts.
So I have a fun story about Mom. All I have to say is chickens. She grew up with a chicken in her house.
Yeah.
Where do you remember the story where she'd creak open her closet door and the chicken would come running inside to her because he thought it was a hawk chasing her. And I've always thought about that story, and then how we had Tito and Tita in our house, and how Mom just loved chickens and having them around, and I think she's instilled in me a love for chickens too.
Well, it's funny, Cassandra, you say that. Our kids don't know yet, but I have totally felt that through Mom too. We're getting chickens for Easter, and we're gonna keep them. We have a little chicken coop we're putting together, and we're gonna have 4 chickens now, one for each kid. So,
Well, that's one of the
Yeah.
things Mom brings is the culture, this Cuban culture that we
Yeah.
get to carry with us for the rest of our life. I think of plátanos fritos y frijoles negros con arroz and croquetes and lemon chicken and all those wonderful meals that she would make for
Right.
us, and she kept alive that Cuban culture.
She taught us Spanish phrases growing up, but I remember her saying many times, "We are American, we speak English." And I just remember, why aren't you teaching us Spanish? And that's why. We are American, we
Because
speak
we're American.
English, and she felt very
Exactly.
strongly about that. Yeah.
yeah, which I think is great. It showed a lot of pride and honor for our country, which is not seen very often anymore.
In my patriarchal blessing, it specifically states that there will be times where Mom and Dad will need me, and I need to, no matter how inconvenient it may be on life, I need to stop what I'm doing and go and help them. And when I read that, I think of Mom, because she was like that. Dad had Brother Savage growing up. Mom had Bonnie Wright, and she would go and do everything to help Bonnie, and endanger her own life going to clean her apartment. And she helped so many people outside of the family as well. She served them.
Good.
back to the family, a specific occasion, when I was going from the NTC down to Guatemala, we flew out to L.A., and we had like a 4-hour layover or so until our flight left to Guatemala in the morning. And as we're walking in the airport, all of a sudden I see this woman I recognize. I'm like, she looks like Mom, and she gets closer and closer, and it is Mom. She had flown all the way out to California.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Like, she flew out that night, she saw me, and then flew back that morning. Like, she didn't even leave
And
the
she
airport.
went to work that morning at MacArthur.
Yeah.
She didn't get
Like,
any sleep that night. I still remember that.
She wanted to see her son so bad.
I was a teenager. I think I was, was it 15, 16, like somewhere around then. There was one day in particular I'd had a very, very difficult day, and I had been scorned by a girl, and life was very difficult, and I went back to my room, and I was just laying in my bed right on the edge of tears, and Mom came in and sat down on the bed, and she literally took me in her arms, cuddled me like a small child, and I just cried. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried. Here I was, a full-grown teenager, and she was holding me like a small child. And even as a young adult, almost full adult, I saw her as my mommy, and felt like she would always be there for me as my mommy.
I'm like crying over here. Yeah, totally crying over here. Thanks a lot, Mark. Oh, that's so sweet.
My most memorable moments really are Mom taking care of me when I'm sick or injured. You know, that was a lot. So emotionally, I never really was vulnerable to Mom in that area. Emotionally, I always tried to be, to myself, keep to myself, and I was, I felt like I had to thicken my skin emotionally. So I never really went to anybody for my emotional problems, but when it came to sickness and injuries, even today, when I'm sick, I call Mom, Mommy, I'm sick, and she still pities me.
Yep.
She's the only one who will pity me sometimes. But my most memorable times, were when I'm sick or injured, and she was just there to carry me almost, and like when I was in the hospital in first grade, I remember particularly waking up once, seeing her with her head down on the end of the bed, because I felt so concerned for her, and how she was there all the time, with her head at the end of the bed, and, sleeping with her head on the bed, things like that. I had a dream, maybe an out-of-body experience, but I saw Mom laying on, with her head on the end of the bed, but I was told that I'm going to be okay. I had the comforting feeling that I'm fine. She's worried I'm going to die, and I'm fine. That I was told I'm going to be fine. And so when I woke up, I was determined to tell her, Mom, I'm going to be fine. My more memorable, real memories, I guess you could say, are when I was older and had broken my leg, and I was in pain that first night, after surgery. Mark, you can attest, you can sympathize here with the after surgery. That first night is just burning pain, and even with the medication, you're still burning pain, and your whole body aches, and it starts in that one spot, and it's just, you can't do anything about it. And I was just screaming in pain, and Mom was there holding my hand, and she wasn't telling me, she wasn't trying to toughen me up. She was just, I know, it does hurt. I know. And, you know, and she somehow found a way to calm me down and comfort me there. And the most comforting time when I was sick was when I had mono and had to come home. She, you know, she told me, Vanessa, just come home. And so she bought me a plane ticket. And when I got off the plane, you know, I couldn't walk, so I was on the wheelchair, and they rolled me out. And when I saw her, I just started bawling because I knew I was in good hands. I knew she would take care of me and would get me healthy again. And I'll never forget that we embraced for a while there in the airport. It was a good moment. So thanks, Mom, for always taking care of me and always pitying me when I'm sick.
I'm so grateful I have a box of tissues right here.
And is when I think we were, it was the Tacoma home. We were probably 8. I was probably like 7 or 8 at the time, and we were locked out of the house. And Mom was so frustrated that the keys were locked inside that she sacrificed her own health, and she slammed her fist into the glass pane and bruised
That
the glass.
wasn't on purpose, though.
It wasn't on
That's
purpose.
what she says.
But she was so mad when she did it, and it went right through. It's like she's bleeding, and she's like, "Oh well, now I'm through the glass. Might as well unlock the door."
Yeah, I remember that story.
I remember that too.
She still has
I
scars from
remember
that.
She sacrificed herself for her kids so we could get back in the house.
She used to always take us swimming at Northwest Park. And we would get the family pass, and even though she hated swimming, she wouldn't get in the water. She would go there almost every day. I remember one summer we went all the time.
Yeah.
We got that
She
little
would just
plastic
sweat it out, too.
and she would just
She
sit
wouldn't
up
get in
there
the water.
and sweat it out. Exactly. And just very unselfish because she knew how much we loved to swim.
I do remember a few times, actually, where she did get in the water, and us children would just mercilessly tease her and taunt her, "Put your face in the water," until finally she did. And then I felt terrible after that because I know she hated it.
Do you
But
guys
she
remember
actually did.
her boating with us, and we convinced her to get on a tube behind the boat? That was the best.
Well, that's the other story I have is we convinced her to get on the jet ski behind Brian up in Utah. And Brian, he wasn't even going very fast. He goes, "I didn't even go that fast." Because I was like, "Brian, you know my mom's terrified." But he just took off a little bit. I guess Mom wasn't really hanging on to Brian and slipped off the back. They good he had a life jacket on, but she was terrified because, you know, she went underwater. And so we always
tell the story that when Mom would walk into a room, his heart would just kind of pitter-patter. Do you guys remember Dad saying that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he'd get kind of excited every time she just walked into a room. And that's how I explain whenever Mom or Grandma comes to visit. I remember when we lived in Dallas and they were in Irving, and they'd show up. You know, they had been serving in the temple during the day, and they just surprise visit us. And Chloe and Chanel would see their white pickup truck pulling up to the front of the house, and they just get that pitter-patter feeling, and I would too, and we'd get so excited to see them when they came to visit.
For some reason, Mom and I were at home alone during a Halloween or something like that. I can't remember why, and so we were kind of bored, and so we decided we were going to go rent a movie and watch it together. And
See where this is going.
so we went over to Blockbuster and rented a movie, and we got some movie. It was called Scarecrow.
Oh my
That,
God.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, so we rented this movie, and because it didn't say it was rated R, it said it was not rated, and
Yeah.
or at least it said some letters on it that we didn't know what it really meant, but it wasn't R. So we brought it back, and you know,
Probably NC-17.
mom was always really good about movies. I don't know if you remember. There would be times she would stand up and just leave, a movie.
Yeah.
She was a good example of things. But this movie, I think it was so shocking and so just out of this world crazy that she sat down and watched this movie with me, and I think I really remember her mouth hitting the floor and her just sitting there watching this going, I can't believe I'm seeing what I'm seeing. It was one of the most horrific, most violent, freakiest thing I've ever seen in my life, and Mom watched it with me.
But with Mark, I remember going in and watching Mom laugh, and they had MC Hammer playing, and you were trying to teach Mom how to do the MC Hammer dance. And I remember all of us rolling on the floor, and then you tried to teach all of us. We were laughing. I just remember it being a really good time, and just watching Mom learn how to do the MC Hammer.
Hammer time.
Oh, I would have given anything to see Mark do that too. Not just
I'm doing it
Mark.
right now, so you're just going to have to imagine it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well, I feel that even though I didn't get to be the first, and, I always looked up to all my siblings, but I count my blessings and know why I was one of the last. And that I know because I needed Mom as a best friend, and she truly was. So when, I was able to, she supported me through school and, during my dating with Brian when he left on his mission. I remember the day he left, Mom was there for me, and she took me out to eat, and we just talked and laughed and she tried to uplift me because she knew that was going to be really hard for me to say bye to him for 2 years. And she was always very supportive of me and my choices, and I just, all the things, she always seemed to be there for me. She was truly, and I've told her, my best friend. I just remember all the times that she would help me study with nursing school and help me, and I remember even in junior high when I was really having a rough time with vocabulary, and the elementary, I just, dyslexia, trying to get through all that, thinking that that's what it was, and Mom kept fighting for it, saying, I know that, she's got a problem, and she would help me and help me study and memorize these, because I had a lot of difficulty with it. But I just remember those times of just having a best friend. That's what Mom was, and I just want to bring up, and I remember this story just because I always hope my children feel this about me, in that I remember when we were sitting on a dinner table one night, Mom had a really rough day, which I always feel this when I have a rough day, but she, she was in her room upset, and I don't remember what it was about, but we were all sitting around the dinner table, and we started questions, how we always do that, and Dad asked the question, who would you like to be when you grow up, or who do you look up to, or something like that. I think he said, who would you like to be like when you grow up? And we all had different answers. And Mom started coming down the hall and heard us kind of talking, and she sat down real quiet at the table. And I remember just looking at her and being sad that she was sad. And I told her, and my answer was, I want to be like Mom. I just remember Mom is a very clean person, and she definitely taught me how to care for my house, and I always aspire to be like her, because I go to my
Absolutely.
friends' homes, and I just think Mom was such a good example to me and really taught me to be a housewife. And I think it makes a big difference to my husband. He comes home to a clean home. And then she always taught me to, to dress well and to look pretty, and I do that, we do that for our husbands, and I try and instill that in myself to do that for Brian. And then she always, along with cleaning, she said also, I also thought she always, when I was younger, she always would come in and help make my bed and clean my clothes, and even when I was the worst about putting my clothes in the right place.
Yeah, I was your roommate. I totally remember that.
No, you weren't the worst one.
I was terrible.
When she visits here, I feel like I'm living in a hotel because everything is done. I look around, I'm like, my bed is made, my kids' beds are made, my kitchen, my sink is empty all the time, and dinner is
Kids
off
are
the
dressed.
table by the time by the time the
amazing.
kids are in jammies. I come down and the kitchen, all the food is put away, and I'm like, I feel like I'm living in a hotel. It's fantastic. She runs my house better than I do.
She's so good.
And I told, in fact, that's funny because I just called her the other day, and I said, Mom, today was the first day since you guys left, because they came to visit me for my birthday last month. This last week was the first day I had let the kitchen go dirty at night. I had cleaned it every night because while she was here, it was clean for a whole week every night. And I loved it so much that I was determined. And I called her. I said, Mom, tonight is the first night I'm letting the kitchen go dirty tonight since you left. There are times I kind of wish I could have been more emotionally available to Mom, because, I hear you guys talk about how you would sit down with Mom and, Mark's story about how you opened up, just cried with her, and, I really didn't do that. I always was afraid to open up and tell her all my secrets. I always felt like they would be disappointed or something, so.
No.
I regret not opening up very much to her, so.
Well, you are now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are
Oh,
now.
I do now. Mom knows so much about me now.
You guys have become very close now. I don't know if you guys know this. I think I shared this with all of you, but Mom saved our marriage, Sarah's and my marriage. When we were engaged, after a few months of being engaged, I don't know what happened, but there was a day when I told Sarah, Sarah, I love you and all the yada yada yada, but I don't feel like I've really received that answer yet about us. And Sarah looked at me and says, oh, really? And I said, yeah, okay. So she then took off the ring, gave it to me and said, all right, we'll see you later. And she turned around and left. And I was shocked. I was like, well, wait a minute. It wasn't what I expected. I was just trying to talk, but Sarah, being the strong woman she is, she just said, okay, well, if you don't know that I'm the right person, then you don't deserve me. So she gave me the ring back and she left. So I called up Mom and Dad and Dad was kind of quiet on the phone, but Mom said, you did what? And I explained. And she goes, Mark, why did you do that? And she goes, you're an idiot. She goes, you are such an idiot. You are such a fool. And she was like telling me, her son, that I was an idiot. And says, you should not have done that.
Gravel.
And you need to
Go
go
gravel right
make it
now.
up to her right now. You need to make it up to her right now. Because she is such a good girl, Mark, and you've made a big mistake. And Mom totally took Sarah's side. And I was okay. So I then went and built a snowman that was laying prostrated on the ground with the branches out like they were arms, and the ring in the hand of the snowman. And then I asked Sarah to come over, and I re-proposed to Sarah and said, "I'm so sorry. It's not what I meant, and please take me back," and begged, and she took me back. And that was all because Mom whipped her son and made sure that she knew when there was a good girl entering into her son's life, and she saved our marriage.
You know, that's the thing about Mom is she's so spiritually in tune.
The Leahona, like she totally points you in the right direction. And
Mom was so in tune with the spirit that she was like a second Holy Ghost. And I remember when I was dating certain girls, and I would be in a situation that I shouldn't be in, and I would get a phone call, and Mom would just wanted to check in, how's it going? And she would ruin the moment, but then get me, feeling guilty or feeling like I need, I shouldn't be in this situation. I need to remove myself. And I promise you, and Tiffany can witness to this, because she would just call at odd moments just to check in. How's it going? I felt like I needed to call you right now and just wanted to see how things are going. Like, serious?
That's
oh my
awesome.
Goodness, what? But she was so in tune with the Spirit that I always thought of her as my second Holy Ghost. That she always would be there to help remind me of what I should be doing. I use one of her quotes with my own kids now when they question going to church or playing, and I'm like, well, if you're not dedicated or not committed to church and your testimony, your faith, then obviously you shouldn't. If that's not important to you, then nothing else should be important. And you can't play, you can't watch TV, you can't do all that. But first and foremost, your testimony, your faith comes first, and you need to, make that a part of your life, make that a priority. So that, to me, that is the most that I got out of my relationship with Mom, is just her strong testimony and spirit of her humble attitude and approach.
I just remember she always was the standard for me. If I couldn't tell her about it, don't do it. And I would just remember always, when I'm on a date or out with friends, if I can't do it, laugh, Vanessa. Yeah.
I know.
That was my standard. And
that's amazing. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's an amazing standard to
I
have.
remember always coming home after a night with my friends or on a date and just sitting down with her and telling her about it. She was always interested and just wanted to know what was going on. She's just always there for me through thick and thin, always.
Well, this is one story I wanted to bring up. In Tacoma, I remember very often wanting to go and talk to Mom, and her bedroom door would be locked. And I'd be like, come on, Mom, I want to talk to you.
Poor Mom and Dad.
In my 5 or 6 or 7-year-old mind, what did I do? I didn't leave them alone. I peeked under the door. And what would I see? I would see her kneeling. She was always praying.
Yes.
This is a woman who prayed always.
Yes.
And loved the scriptures and loved her Savior and had a real relationship with our Heavenly Father.
Last week, for the fifth Sunday, we talked about, or we read through and talked about the proclamation to the family. And I thought of, because I was trying to think up of memories and so forth of Mom, and I remember a couple things, that Mom embodies a mother committed to the family as the central unit of society, to the point that like Michelle said, her best friends were her daughters and her husband, and she didn't go out very often for girls' night or whatever. She did her church calling as young women, or as a Relief Society president or whatever, but she was home with the family as often as possible, and she was committed to our family and constantly there for every circumstance, injury or whatever we had, and
So selfless. Yeah.
she was very, very selfless, always thinking about the family. And I remember and getting up before I was 14 and had to go to seminary. I remember her getting us all up at 6 o'clock in the morning, bringing us to the kitchen table, and reading the scriptures every morning, despite us grumbling and casting curses and voodoo or whatever to hurt her. Like we hated it, but she was committed, and we did that, and that commitment has instilled on me the importance of family and being a good mother and a father and being committed to your kids so that they can gain a testimony of the gospel.
Yeah.
Even when she went to work, she worked there at the school desk. I remember her being like the cafeteria lady, and I was like, cool, my mom works here, and she would, hand out straws to everybody, and I remember then she went to the attendance clerk and worked with Dad there. I mean, she was always trying to surround herself and be in our surroundings to know what our lives are like and make us happy and aware of where we're at in our lives.
She was invested, very invested in our lives.
Yeah.
Right.
I just always felt so special and important because both our parents, I just felt like were always there for us, always, no matter what. Even to, when you're annoyed, like, I just don't want you here, they're there, and they'll never leave you. Like, I don't know, they were always there for me and for all of us.
And they want to be there.
Yeah, they loved it.
And
they made it, it wasn't a burden to them.
No,
Yeah.
even today, it just, I feel like it's such a blessing that both Mom and Dad, especially Mom, wants to be here, wants to visit us, wants to always come see us and come see our grandchildren, and doesn't want to leave when it's time to leave.
I gave her a scripture one time in a frame. It's Proverbs 31:10, and it says, "Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant's ships. She bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. She considereth a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth out, not by night. She layeth her hands to the spindle. and her hands hold the distaff. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates, when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh fine linen, and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up, and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Everything in this scripture is Mom.
That was perfect.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met another woman like her. Not a single one.
No.
And it's overwhelming sometimes when I try to be like her and I fall so short.
You know, I hear people say, my mom is the best mom in the world, and, you know, you don't know my mom then.
Yeah.
You don't know my mom then.
We do. We call her blessed, and Dad calls her blessed, and we all praise her because she has done virtuously and has excelled them all. And we all adore her and love her, and I hope that she understands from this discussion that we've had today that she understands how much we love her and wish for her to be happy, and how blessed we feel to be her children.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise